My name's Philip Cohen. I'm the QA lead on Baten Kaitos for Namco Home Tech. Baten Kaitos is developed by Monolith exclusively for Namco. Monolith is the same studio responsible for Xenosaga, and it's a GameCube exclusive. It's kind of part of Namco's deal with Nintendo to try to bring quality RPGs to their market, because I know that they don't have too many RPGs right now. And now Namco's releasing 2 and ready for the Christmas season. Baten Kaitos is set in a pure fantasy environment where you play the role of the main character named Callus, who is going off to fight in this war against good and evil. As he goes out to avenge his parents' death, he gets injured, and he's nursed back to life by a woman named Zelha, who he then goes on kind of a mini adventure with, and the plot from there ramps up because he gets involved in something he did not mean to get involved with. What's actually kind of funny is that there's a lot of misconceptions that since the battle system is based off cards and not your typical menus, that it's a completely different RPG experience, and that's not true. RPG gamers out there are instantly going to recognize pretty much all the features in the game. It's going to have the same great story, hours of gameplay, side quests, item gathering that you'd expect from an RPG. The difference between the card-based RPG and the traditional RPG really allows for the deeper strategy. The problem that you find right now with RPG games is that a lot of them are really similar. They do all tell different stories, but the basic gameplay is always the same. So you end up having like a menu system, and you do your fighting. And generally your strategy at the beginning of those games, you have to use a lot of strategy because you're weak and you're trying to survive. But as you go on, you usually get so powerful and you get these 1 or 2 attacks that you just go through and the strategy is just nothing anymore. You're constantly using those. With the card-based system, we allow the strategy to actually ramp up. Your strategy increases as you go towards the end of the game. As you level up, you can play more cards at once. You can have more cards in your deck to play. So as the combinations become more varied and more advanced, the strategy definitely increases, so that by the end of the game, your strategy is at its highest, which is pretty much the reverse of every other RPG. So we feel the gameplay remains satisfactory. In fact, the gameplay gets better as you go through the game, as opposed to easier. And we're releasing 2 RPGs that have 2 totally different looks. A lot of people look at it and go, well, why 2D backgrounds? A lot of people now are going with 3D backgrounds. As I said before, it's a pure fantasy setting, and we had to decide, well, what's the best way to draw this player in? What's the best way to get him involved in this fantasy storyline? And while we could have done 3D backgrounds, right now it didn't go for the look that we wanted. We couldn't do the amount of detail that we wanted to. By including these beautifully drawn 2D backgrounds that are completely animated, it draws the player into the fantasy world. And it really makes you feel like you're interacting almost with like a moving picture because some of the images are so beautiful. So really it's more to draw the player in. Now the interesting thing about E3 is that, I might be wrong about this, but I believe it's actually going to be at the Nintendo booth and not the Namco booth. So it's, again, to show you the great relationship that we have with Nintendo. What I do hope people get out of it is that they actually give it a chance and actually give it pick up the controller and give it a try. I do believe we're going to have an interactive demo, although I could be wrong about that. The biggest problem that I see is people, when they hear that's based off of cards, is that they have this misconception that, oh, it's, they get in their head that it's just going to be a boring card game. I have to learn all these advanced rules, and I'm just not even going to give it a try. If we can just get people just to sit down with the game just for a few minutes and get into one battle, they're instantly going to be hooked. The rules are simple enough that anybody could pick it up. The basic rules are just based off of poker, really. Just match numbers or get straights, and it's that simple. And from there, the battle system opens up and your strategies open up, and each player can really evolve their strategy and match their cards their own way. So that if 2 friends are playing the game, they're going to be able to get a totally, different. They're going to have totally different ways to play it than their other friend. So I think at E3, the biggest challenge is that you're on the show floor and there's a lot going on, and you really don't have, you're going to go up there and see an RPG, And it's really hard to sit down with a game and play it. But I'm confident that if people just sit with it for 5 to 10 minutes at E3, that they're going to be hooked into it and actually see what's so special about it. It should be available by Thanksgiving. I do believe we're trying to get it out sometime around October, but I don't believe a final date's been set yet.
So